Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Welcome to this week's card. I used a new stamp set to me called Birthday Buddies by Paper Smooches. Such a cute little set. So I'm going to use the fish and I'm going to stamp it 3 times on this Neenah Solar White cardstock using Memento Tuxedo Black ink. And I'm going to color with Copics. So I've got 3 different yellows here. And on this fish I actually started with the darkest color. It turns out that I don't like doing it this way. But I continuously tried different ways of doing things just to see if anything's better. But anyway, so I started dark, then I went medium, and then I went light. And I ended up having to put more ink on the paper than I normally would, just because I had to go back with a couple of colors to get it to blend the way I wanted it to. So as you can see here, I'm just kind of going back and forth a little bit. Now for the scales, I'm not really shading, I'm just going to color them in. I've got 3 different blues here, and this B000 doesn't really actually match that well, but it really was the only light blue color that I had, so I made it work, and I think it worked okay. So again, I started with the darkest color and then worked my way toward the lightest color. This second one, I'm going to use my normal technique, which is do an all over color of the lightest first. And I think I tried it the other way first because it was such a small area and I thought I could get away with it, but it actually is larger than I thought. So after my all over light color, I go in with the darkest and into the shadow areas, and now I've got medium, which I'll blend out. And then the lightest color, I go back in and blend it all together. And I'm using the medium orange to color these scales. And the same thing that I used the blue for in the first fish. So I'm using the darkest one to color the scales. And then I'm just going to blend out with the medium and then with the light. I went ahead and did this last one the same yellow off camera. And now I'm coloring the party hat. Sorry, I've got my hand covering it there, but this is a Real Red Stampin' Up! Marker, and I just drew my own stripes here. And this is Pink Pirouette, and I just colored it in between the red. So I'm going to do all 3 of those hats, and then I'm going to cut out the fish. I took a Spellbinders circle die, and I'm just going to take a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece of cardstock and cut that circle out. And I'm going to take a black Stampin' Up! Marker, and I'm just going to do some faux stitching all around. And when you run that die through the Sizzix, it actually leaves a little bit of an embossed line around, so I'm using that as a guide. And then I'm also going to draw lines all the way around, freehand. And you'll notice that I really don't move my hand at all. My fingers and my hand are completely still, and I just move my arm down. You just have to make sure that your hand doesn't stick, so you got to make sure it's smooth. Alright, my sentiment, I'm using VersaFine ink because I love the way that works with the clear stamps. And I'm using a completely different color. I think, I want to say it's BG13. But it's something that matches the water, which is what I'm about to do. Anyway, so it's really easy to color because the color comes on really thick, or it spreads out really easily, and you don't get any kind of overlay like darker in some areas, lighter. It's all very even. Alright, so for my water, I just cut out this square piece, Neenah Solar White cardstock again. I'm going to start with All Over Broken China. And I'm not going to do it too dark because I'm actually going to use 3 different colors. Now I'm cleaning off my applicator on the scratch sheet. And now I'm going to move to this Evergreen Bough. And as you can see, I'm getting marks, like those rectangular marks. And the reason is because this is a brand new ink pad, and so it's got a lot of ink on it. And the trick to not getting those blocks is to have just very little ink on your applicator. So that's why I was getting them. But I mean, it's okay because it's supposed to be water and it's not perfect. Anyway, so went back in with some Stormy Sky, and now I have this kind of blue-green sort of look. So now I'm going to spritz it with water. So I'm spritzing my hand, actually getting my hand wet, and then I'm flicking the water onto the cardstock. And you want to be careful. You can see I kind of flick it off onto my craft sheet first because I don't want big puddles of water. You want to be careful because otherwise it'll be too much. Okay, so I'm going to use some dimensionals on the back side of the front panel, and I'm going to turn that over so that it kind of has a little gap in there. And then I'm going to adhere my fish, and I'm going to use a tape runner where it hits the white area, and I'm going to use foam adhesive where it's going to hit the blue water, because I've already raised up my white piece of paper there. So I just want to keep everything even. And I just very lightly place them on there without pressing down because I want to make sure that they're exactly where I want them to be before I permanently adhere them. So I've got one kind of coming off the top on the left hand side and then one going underneath the circle on the right. So the areas that don't have the blue water, I'm going to use the dimensionals, and then I'm going to use my tape runner on the water piece to make sure, again, everything's at the same level. Adhere that to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece of folded cardstock. And then I decided to make my party hats a little more festive by adding some stickles. And that's it. It's a pretty easy card to make. It's so cute. I love this stamp set. I already have ideas for some of the other stamps in there. So you'll have to stay tuned for that. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next week. Thanks for watching.